We'll go ahead and get started. We are calling the open session to order for the regular council meeting, January 25th, 2023. We did not have a closed session today, so we'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Lemon.
Good.
Councilmember Douglas.
Present.
Councilmember Ackerman.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Present. And Mayor Burris.
Present. Okay. Let's go ahead and review the agenda order. Do we have any changes to the agenda order? All right, seeing none, could I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Moving forward to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar will be moved on in one blanket motion. Anybody may pull an item for discussion from the public or from council. Would anyone like to pull any items from the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? All right. Passes. Moving to agency reports, starting with Placer County Sheriff's Department.
Good evening, Council. Sergeant Kevin Griffiths, Placer County Sheriff's Office, your guys' station commander here in Colfax. I just wanted to quickly go over our calls for service for the year. Unfortunately, I don't have the stats for just Colfax, the city of. I asked for those this week when I saw our final years were up, but they didn't have those pulled out. But your sheriff's office has been extremely busy this year. We had over 50,000 calls for service over this last year. Just over 6,000 calls where reports were taken. So the month, if you look on the thing, you'll see that our busiest month is July, which is the summertime. By day, it's shocking to me. It's mostly Wednesday where a lot of our calls for service, and then Friday jumps in there. The weekends aren't as busy as those 2 weekdays. People are home making those calls when their stuff is getting stolen. A lot of that's going on. Mail theft. Lock your stuff up. Check your mail. Take your mail out of your boxes. Day shift is always going to be busier because the crimes that aren't reported at night get reported in the morning when people wake up and they find their cars are broken into. So that's kind of how that the stats broke out for the year. Very busy traffic stops. We had over 8,700 traffic stops that your deputies made. 4,200 calls for suspicious circumstances. I don't have any of the stats on the number of arrests. They haven't tabulated all that together yet. But I also wanted to go into yesterday. We had a pretty big situation happen at the Colfax High School. We had a call of a suspicious person on the high school campus. While our deputies were en route, we were getting conflicting statements, which put us to make the decision to go ahead and lock down the high school, bring in outside resources. You had agencies from the sheriff's office, Rockland PD, Roseville PD, the California Highway Patrol. We called in CAL FIRE with their TEMS team. That's their medical team that is able to go in with us into what we would consider an orange or / hot zone. They have some ballistic armor so that they can go in there and start rendering aid if something were to happen. Put this school on lockdown. We started getting reports of where the suspicious subject was, and we were able to contact him. Finally, it took a little while to do that, and he voluntarily came and met with our deputies, but we left the school. That was towards the end of the lockdown when we were getting ready for reunification. We let the school on lockdown because we were not going to start letting people out or letting kids go until we could actually physically contact him. We wanted to make sure the school was safe and everybody was good to do that. Started a great reunification plan that worked very well with the city's help with the Sierra Center and giving people, the parents, a place to go and get information and have support there. It really made this event a successful event, successful that nothing happened and we didn't really have to go to work. And the worst nightmare of all of us parents is something happened at the school and we can't get there. But the community coming in together the way it did, it allowed us to go to work. We didn't have to worry about people trying to run through our roadblocks, getting down to the school. We had anywhere from 35 to 45 cops on that campus very quickly. And that's not including all the unmarked cars that you guys didn't see running around this city trying to figure out where the suspicious person was. And I know that as we were trying to wrap it up, that our captain called us and said, no matter what, we are not done today until we put eyes on him, on that person. So you'll have that from us. We have those reports. We're going to continue to work as hard as we can until we locate that person. We're not going to just say, okay, this wasn't what we thought it was. No, we're going to go until we actually make contact with him. He was very straightforward with us. We worked that out. Investigations was working on it from there. Anybody have any questions or see anything that you see that we might have done that you would have wished we could have done a little bit better or differently?
I think it was handled as a parent of one of the students. I think it was handled nicely. There were like 7 different updates, both just phone call and also email. So thank you. Just out of curiosity in general, high level, what happens to a person like that that just ties up so much resources? And I mean, just in general.
Well, you have to look out, like in general, did the conflicting statements, was he part of that conflicting statements? Was he on the outside? Was it somebody that overheard something that wasn't meant to be that? So there's a lot that goes into it. If we find that somebody had done something illegal or whatnot, then we're going to take him. We're going to take him in and do that. But there's other things around there that conflicting statements, we took it to that level of, okay, we need to make sure we know what those statements are. We're always going to weigh on the side of caution for the kids at our schools. We'll do that. I will tell you this, that I talked to several Rockland and Roseville officers. They were shocked at the kids at Colfax. Every kid that was walking by us kept thanking us. They were happy that we were there. And the Roseville and the Rockland cops, which are in our county, had these kids thanking them. And they're like, wait a minute, these kids are thanking us. This isn't what we see even down that side of the county. So the parents of Colfax should be proud of how their kids were. We had no problems with the kids whatsoever.
It was nicely handled, so thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you and to whoever was in that, because I was, behind the scenes, and I think it went smooth. I thank you as a grandparent, so let everybody know. I think it went really good.
And we'll tell you this, Ty Connors, your old sergeant up here in our community service, he was running the event as I was actually out in my patrol car looking for the suspicious person. I was getting updates trying to run there, but our detectives eventually found him and got him. So I'll pass that on to Ty. He'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think the majority of the feedback I received was that law enforcement literally could not have handled the situation better than they did.
Thank you.
That was from the parents at the community center. The only feedback I received that could be interpreted as less than positive was there were parents that felt the communication from the schools could have been a little bit more direct. But it was a high stress situation and there's only certain information that can be released when it's not verified. So overall, this was definitely the ideal way for this to go if it had to happen.
Yeah, and from a training aspect from us, for pulling all the different agencies in at that moment, and they all went to work. I mean, everybody went to work. Lyman was out there with us and he was put on a team to start clearing rooms to make sure there was no threat inside the school. So everybody came together and that's just what we do. So it's almost like we had a training event without having a training event that'll make us that much better for hopefully the never future.
Yes.
But we're ready if it happens and we'll go to work.
Thank you.
I agree. Yeah, thank you. I don't know to what degree you sync up with like planning for such events or prevention type training, like with the school, but like just one more bit of feedback. Because my daughter was in one of those courses or classes that had a substitute teacher. The substitute teacher had no idea what was going on, just FYI. So there was internally with the school, I know it's not your problem, I'm just saying like just FYI more so, like hopefully they adjust. There were some parents that complained about that. Hopefully everyone gets a memo like at the same time. Because there were a couple classes that had substitute teachers that didn't know what was going on.
Did the kids teach them what they needed to do at that point? So, just out of curiosity, I'm sure the kids did, right? Because it's also ingrained in them. Because I know the school does really well, but I'll pass that on to Ty. Because they do training with all the teachers on the right way to lock down the school, the right way to do that. Us as the sheriff's office, when we're doing our unified command training with all the sergeants, we're actively doing this type of a response and working that stuff out. In fact, the west side of Placer County down low, the fire board has asked us to host a training like that, just so that they can learn how they can better assist us on a law enforcement side, all of our trainings normally revolve around the fires and how we assist fire. Now we're going to change it to where they're coming to assist us, so we can make sure we have the medical component coming on the backside. Because even on that day, as I was flying up the freeway at a speed that was conducive to the event I was running to, I had called for Cal Fire to stage up at the ballpark just so I could get them on the other side of the tracks, because I was worried, what if something happens? I don't want them stuck on the other side of the train when the train is coming through. So
Yeah.
It was weird seeing a picture, last comment, of the suspect actually talking to the substitute teacher, like just, but I guess they knew each other.
Uh-huh.
So that was weird, but just kind of like another student.
yeah,
But
Yep.
yeah, cool. Nice to
Okay.
handle.
there's nothing else. That's the end of my report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm so glad that we were talking about this place.
Mhm.
It could have switched out. I was a little bit late on the plane.
That, well, we have a school resource officer, Deputy Ames, who is assigned to this school. He's a deputy, full-fledged deputy. I know that I had 3 deputies there within just a minute or 2 of each other. So we do have that. I can't tell you what, because I didn't see Ames, but he was also busy in the middle of the school where I'm busy on the outside trying to do that thing. So they would cover both, yeah. And then we're a stone's throw away. You had Deputy Boyer that day, and he's a brand new deputy that I will bring into the city council meeting, so you guys can all meet him. But he did a fantastic job, went up there and just started taking control and calling in for resources. So we're very, very fortunate.
Thank you. All right, CHP.
Good evening, everybody. Officer Jason Lyman, Gold Run CHP. Yes, obviously the big event was here at Colfax, and as they were talking about there, it was awesome that it turned out as well as it did, and it was a great training experience for us. We all the different agencies and stuff were able to come together and get things accomplished in a quick and effective manner. And like Kevin said there, they called me and one of my other officers there, and we show up here and they're like, okay, you guys are going in with the sheriffs. Grab your rifle and get in there. And and it, like I said, it went really well, and it was a great training experience. I learned things that you don't learn in training because it was real. Everything, all the training that we do, which we do a lot of this stuff in training, but it's not the same. So anyway, other than that, I know that we do have some more weather coming in this weekend again, and we're hoping that the roads will be going okay this time. And there's going to be a lot of traffic, I would assume, this weekend because of the nice weather that we have had, that all the people from down the hill are going to be wanting to get up and play in the snow. And we just remind everybody that if you're going to play in the snow, get off the freeway. Don't park on ramps and on the side of the freeway. And we've had people sledding on the hills into lanes of the freeway before, and we're trying to spread that word that there are snow parks and other areas to go to that are allocated for that and is a much safer situation. And hopefully people use good judgment and go into a place where it's going to be safe for them and their kids. Anybody have any other questions for us?
I feel like there needs to be some big signs that say you're going to get fined over $1,000 or something crazy. I don't know how else to deter people. Apparently their life isn't enough. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
All right, Placer County Fire Department, Cal Fire.
Well, good evening, Council. Bob Counts, Assistant Chief with Cal Fire, Placer County Fire Department. At our last council meeting, I reported out a structure fire we had at the mobile home park just outside of the city limits. And unfortunately, a few days after that, we had a second structure fire off Grandview, a partial loss. So the guys at the station have been super busy. The volunteers have been super busy. Normal type responses, a couple structure fires mixed in. Just a few more items for yesterday at Colfax High School. I was at the incident command post. Sergeant Ty Connors did an amazing job. Just like Sergeant Griffiths was talking about. And it was very much a coordinated response, and I was there to see it all. And from CAL FIRE, from Placer County Fire, we sent both of our fire engines from Colfax. We sent our TEMS members that Sergeant Griffiths briefly mentioned. And those are specifically trained tactical emergency medical services personnel who are regular members of the sheriff's office's special enforcement team. And we regularly train with them. So within 30 minutes, we had two of our specially trained tactical emergency medical personnel on scene, ready to go in with their officers. We also had two of our CAL FIRE peace officers respond and were part of the search teams, as well as we sent a drone operator up that was searching the hillside behind the school with his FLIR, with his drone. So very much a coordinated response, and I applaud their efforts yesterday. We're continuing with our volunteer training. Recently, the volunteers met as a group countywide, and they all went up and toured our emergency command center up at Grass Valley to see how the dispatch center works and all that stuff and get familiar with it. They're getting ready to hold another bi-monthly meeting where all of the volunteer captains from all over the county get together and they discuss larger issues as a group. So that's moving on forward. Lastly, I wanted to cover Rescue 36 one more time. I know it's been a long time it's been gone. It's when I got in this position and I started learning the facts and everything that's going on with it, it became a mission of mine to get that thing back here fixed and ready to go. So I had multiple communications with the repair shop over the last 10 days or so. I personally visited their shop on Monday to put eyes on the rescue and its progress and where we sit. So when I visited on Monday, it was painted. It's actually the second time it's been painted now. The first time, once they painted it, they realized that they were not happy with their body work that they had done. So they decided they needed to strip it down, redo it, and make it right. So it's painted. They were getting ready to color sand and cut and buff the paint, and then start putting it all back together over the course of this week. So the owner of the company promised me he would deliver it on Friday. So, and I have no doubts that he won't. So that's where we're at with the rescue. And with that, that's the end of my report tonight. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have any of our nonprofits here this evening? Okay. Seeing none. Did any of our nonprofits submit a comment online? Oh, okay. We do not have any presentations or public hearings tonight, but we do have our public comments. So any items not on the agenda at this time, if anyone would like to make a public comment, now is the time.
Can I approach you guys and hand up something to you?
Please.
Just over just have the definitions of retail and type and all that stuff on there. And if you look at the this explains that the definition for an M license under U means a state license issued under this chapter for commercial cannabis activity involving medicinal cannabis. The M licensee means a person holding a license under this chapter for commercial cannabis activity involving medical cannabis. Neither of those have anything to do with retail sale of cannabis. They are definitions though, and they do apply to selling, but not a retail sale. At the top of the page on K, it's commercial cannabis activity includes the cultivation, possession, manufacture, distribution, processing, storage, laboratory, testing, packaging, labeling, transportation, delivery, or retail sale of cannabis and cannabis products. So that's the definition I like, not that it's the one that it's interpreted correctly or not, but so that's just a little bit of background. And I know you guys probably know this, but I have to read it anyways, just so to reassure you that this is Dillon's rule. And Dillon's rule is derived from the two court decisions issued by Judge John F. Dillon of Iowa in 1868. It affirms that previously held narrow interpretation of a local government's authority in which a sub-state government may engage in its activity only if it is specifically sanctioned by the state government, which it has been in this matter. Dillon's rule was challenged by Judge Thomas Cooley in the Michigan Supreme Court in 1871, with the ruling that municipalities possess some inherent rights of local self-government. Cooley's rule was followed for a short time by courts in Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, and Texas until the U.S. Supreme Court upheld Dillon's rule in 1907, Hunter versus City of Pittsburgh, and again in 1923. Since then, the following tenets have become a cornerstone of American municipal law and have been applied to municipal powers in most states. A municipal corporation can exercise only the powers explicitly granted to them, those necessarily or fairly implied in or incident to the powers expressly granted, those essential to the declared objects and purposes of the corporation, not simply convenient but indispensable. State constitutions vary in the level of power they grant to local governments. However, Dillon's rule states that if there is a reasonable doubt whether a power has been conferred to a local government, then the power has not been conferred. That's Dillon's rule. That's all.
Thank you, Tim. Do you mind filling out a speaker card for me? We're trying a new thing. It's going to help with our public records. So if you don't mind, it's not mandatory, but it'll definitely help Marguerite do her job a bit easier. And then do we have any additional public comment? Okay. Anything online?
Nothing online.
All right.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
Where, did we get anywhere with his question from last meeting about putting the ordinance back on the agenda? See if we want to change the.
That's my understanding is that we are going to discuss that on the first meeting or second meeting of February.
Second meeting. The question that staff walked away with is we need to answer is whether or not our current ordinance meets the state law requirements, if it's compliant at this point. Staff engage SCI Consulting to do an independent look at that and provide that information back to council. They need some time to work on that process and get it over to us so we can put it in the staff report and bring it back to council. And working with the mayor, we'll have that at the February 22nd meeting for discussion.
Right.
So since you opened that can of worms, I just want to clarify my understanding when we directed staff to do that was that we would then as council provide policy direction to staff on the tail end of that presentation, whether that be making changes to the ordinance or otherwise. So
Yep.
I would appreciate if council now could confirm that that was their understanding, because it appears me and Sean were under the same understanding there. So if I could get some kind of a confirmation from the other three of you, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, no problem. I did ask a clarification question. Basically, about what we were going to talk about, and generically put, it was about the ordinance and nothing else. And everyone said, yeah. And I can go deeper if you'd like, but that was my clear understanding. It was even verified publicly.
So I guess my question, and just making sure that we're on the same page so that the public understands the agenda item. I fully intend to make policy direction at that meeting. And I want to make sure that everyone else is okay with that being part of the agenda item. Because if we agendize it and that's not the understanding, I don't want anyone to come away with it feeling like they were disrespected. So if everybody is okay with policy direction coming out of that meeting, I just want to make sure we agendize it in a very clear fashion.
If it's clearly, in my opinion, if it's clearly defined as such, and there's no sniper things that come up that aren't clearly spelled out on the agenda, I'm totally okay with that.
Okay. Kim?
Yeah, I've seen it the same way. I interpret it the same way.
Okay. Because I'm going to be very clear one more time. We all know it's kind of the elephant in the room. What's going to happen is you guys are going to ask for adult use. And I know that I plan to make a policy suggestion that will come to council for a yes, no.
Just clearly state that's gonna be the topic and not, let's talk about an ordinance and then let that conversation slip into an adult use conversation.
So as long as everybody is clear on what the agenda item is, then we're okay. All right,
Look, Madam Mayor, I just want to make sure from staff's perspective, we understand it. Is the direction now changed that we're going to have not, we're going to both have the compliance component of it, of the current ordinance to state law and the discussion of adult use?
the reality is there was an assertion that our designation of our licensing is not in alignment with the state law.
Correct.
Which means that we are going to discuss whether or not it's in alignment with state law. And based on the discussion that we have with SCI Consulting, we are then going to take policy direction whether or not we want to make changes to our ordinance, whether it be adult use cannabis or whether it be some other aspect that may or may not be compliant with state law. We will give policy direction if we need to update our ordinance based on the privy of council. And I just want to make sure that we're not overlooking the fact that we have two people here who have asked and asked and asked and are going to ask again. And it's definitely going to come up. And there's no reason that every council member sitting here tonight and on that night shouldn't be able to say yes or no, whatever that might be. And if we don't get 3 council members that say we're in agreement with that policy decision, then that will not go forward. But if we do, it will. And I don't want to continue to have 50,000 meetings where we beat around the bush and don't really, we talk about it, but we don't necessarily make a decision. I just want to make a decision and be done with it because I don't want to keep re-agendizing it. So, and I think most people feel the same.
So yeah, this is the 7th year, right? Has it been 7? Is this year number 7? Is it 7?
It might be more than that.
Well, yeah, for me,
Year number 14.
it's been way more, and I'm not even gonna go into that because there's been so much money spent on this.
Yes.
So what I am gonna say is, it was my understanding that we were going to look at whether or not Colfax is in compliance with the state law.
Mhm.
And that is my understanding, and I am open to whatever else is gonna evolve. But I want to check with the city attorney because I remember that I consulted him in the last meeting. And so I want to be clear.
And we're going to
You know,
be very thorough.
And I'm going to go back to the meeting too and listen
Yes.
and see, what exactly was said.
If
I
you
did
don't
not
want
do
to,
that.
this is the time. We're going to say yes or no, and then we're going to put this to bed for the year. I don't want to keep doing this.
The last 2 years, I've been first high school. That's.
And we appreciate your thoroughness and compliance with the law.
They initiate.
Yeah.
We'll ask them.
And I want to be clear too, right now, during the public comment section, us clarifying our previous direction to staff, we're not going to discuss the merits of whether or not we approve of this policy direction because it's not agendized. So I want to make sure I don't accidentally get everybody into a Brown Act violation, but I did want to make sure that in front of the camera, in front of the public, we provided clarity to our staff so that no one feels blindsided when that meeting happens and we make our decisions and we say, we've talked about it. So I hope that helps. I hope everybody understands that we intend to have this discussion once, knock it out and move forward.
Well, really, in the rule, city staff is able to, I think it's city clerk allowed to change things to, fine tune things in her power.
I think we just gave absolutely crystal clear direction that sets expectations for the public. I don't think there was any wiggle room here. Unless someone else here feels there's wiggle room, I don't feel like
This is the
there
first time I've heard it clearly. So thank you for making it clear and not blurring lines.
Yeah.
As long as I'm speaking for myself, as long as I'm fully prepared with all the information we can talk about and it's clearly on the agenda so anyone in the public can show up and voice their opinion on the matter too. I'm game.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect. And did you have a question?
I do, because we have a new sheriff, Sheriff
Yes.
Wu. I'm not sure where he's gonna want to weigh in. I'm pretty sure I know where he's gonna want to weigh in on the marijuana comment. but I've got to be able to go forward with them. So on that night, is there going to be a move to make general use marijuana legal in Colfax? And would that be decided of that night?
If that question is asked, council does have the authority that night to make that
So
decision.
if he wanted.
So if he wants to have an opinion, he is more than welcome to send someone who can make a public comment during the public comment time for that item.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's-
and I would like that to happen.
That's
So
what I wanted
please,
to,
yeah.
I just didn't know if that was going to be that night or, yes, we're going to look at making policy to comply with the state.
It's
So
at this
it's-
point, I feel like we have heard every possible angle there is to hear. And anyone who wants to make a more lengthy public comment than what we're able to permit under the Brown Act for that night is more than welcome to submit a written comment in advance. And then we can accept that into the public record. But I think that we need to just come down to brass tacks and not beat around the bush and just say yes or no.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure so I can.
Thank you.
So Madam Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, as I understand it then, question one on the agenda will be, is our ordinance in compliance with state law? Question two will be, if it is or if it is not, what changes are going to be as a policy matter given direction to staff? And so you can say at that meeting, for example, we want to incorporate adult use cannabis into our ordinance. And if three council members say yes, then staff will do that and come back with a revised ordinance for council consideration. Do I have that right?
That is correct. And that is just one example. And we're getting really hung up on the adult use aspect, but really the purpose of this is to do a streamlined review of our ordinance. Are there required updates? If there are updates, let's take action on them. Let's do it all in one night and let's not play games and keep dragging it out. So it might be use we talk about, it might be any other aspect of the ordinance, as long as we've done our report.
Let's not beat
So-
around the bush. It will be adult use.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely gonna come up.
so with that being said, I would like to say that be really careful about what we put under council business because there's going to be a lot of controversy in that.
We're gonna be
microphone.
very clear about the time limits for public comment. We're gonna make everything very crystal clear for everybody.
I promise you that agenda will be light on one topic.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, with that, public comment is closed unless we have anything in person or online. This is the last call. All right, public comment is closed. We're moving to council and staff reports. Starting with Sean.
Sorry, I kind of played into that already.
Okay.
My question. I just had one item. Got some good news from Wes. Union Pacific got back to us with an offer for us to purchase easement through Railroad Avenue, the rest of the way back to Whitcomb, or most of the way to Whitcomb there, from the train depot. So I'm gonna let Wes give a little bit better update on that, but it sounds like everything's coming together for us to be able to do that. And it's really exciting, and that's all I have. Working on it.
Kim?
Okay, I was 3:00. I had a meeting. The homelessness response project, which I think everybody in this council has been to once. So it was my turn. And I've been to several hundred of these meetings, and the only thing that was resolved is that we need to discuss it further. So there were about 6 sheriffs there and about 7 mayors and about 15 council members. And I appreciate the opportunity to save somebody from having to go down there and go through that again, because it's a little frustrating how, yeah, we just are going to discuss the same thing next month. But anyhow, I appreciate being back in the mix, and that's all for my meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. David?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Marnie?
Actually, I have nothing to report, and what I was going to cross that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say I got nothing to report right now either. Moving to Wes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to take this opportunity to expound on Sean's bringing up. Can you move the next slide? discussion on the looking at acquiring the ingress egress easement from Union Pacific. We've been working on this project for about 3 years. For those of you, most of you probably don't know that the area that's in the box elongated and there that is currently a roadway, the city has no rights or ownership of that access through there. On there. So we've been working for, like I said, 3 years to get on this. This area was identified in the 2006 mitigation fee study as an access road for an arterial as another connection to help alleviate some of the traffic congestion caused by the growth going on there. So getting UP to actually agree to give us an easement through this parcel is unique because this is literally the only legal way they can give rights over to a jurisdiction for access is just for this one cause, and that's either utility access and or car or vehicle access across there. In discussions with this, UP wanted about $6 a square foot. I won't even tell you what that price was originally. After some long discussions with them, we were able to get them down to $2.25 a square foot. We have enough money in the current road mitigation fees that are collected specifically for this use, and it cannot be used for other treatments such as road repair and those types of things. So those fees are collected specifically to offset the impacts of new development to our current roadway systems on there. So this item I will be bringing back to council for authorization to negotiate with UP to obtain this easement at the next meeting on there. There's other things this ties into. I actually had the pleasure of talking to Jeff Hansen today, that owner of Hansen Brothers Enterprises. And I apologize, I didn't detail it out on this, this image today, but currently there's the Bunch Creek Trail is scheduled to go through behind Marvell's, through the development of Maidu Village where the second hotel is slated to go. And then up adjacent up that steep incline to what would be Railroad Street. We're now, after a successful conversation with Jeff Hansen, going to be able to take that straight through to Central Street and then up to Railroad Street. And where the intent is to actually make it both a road and a trail access through there, through the backside of that on there. And I really want to thank Sean for keeping that pressure on me to kind of get that work through in there. And I will mention that Jeff is not going to charge us for that easement access. We just have to do the development piece on that on there. I've got some more legwork with Tony, the Maidu Village development owner, to perfect that trail easement access through there and get them to agree that when they do develop the back end, if we do the improvements that they pay for the realignment on there. So again, it's all coming together. This is part of that plan from council to connect the I-80 corridor and the downtown. And this is another way of doing that. So that way we can get more people downtown and vice versa as part of this whole process.
All right, Les, here's the big question, timeline, because I'm so happy I could cry right now.
I know. Well, the first action we can get, council's approval at the next meeting for me to negotiate that cost on there. Then we could probably have the easement perfected by midsummer.
Okay.
There are some other hurdles, as you see at the bottom end of that snake trail look.
Yeah.
There's still the Y.
Right.
UP will not release that property rights, and we will have to meet with their crossing team and to figure out what treatments there are that we need to do on that. So there's still a long road ahead of us, chasing funding, working with UP for the crossing and all those things. But once we obtain the easement of it, it sets us up better for grant fundings through the MTIP and stuff to actually get the monies to do the work that we need to do to make this a reality. I failed to mention the bottom end where it actually says Railroad Street, that segment up to the Y up there, the city actually owns that portion of it. So, which is odd that we don't own the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's in there. So I think it's going to be great. A partnership, especially with Hansen. So we will create 2 effective new accesses downtown because Central Street will connect through, and it'll also connect through the back of Maidu Village, the back of Railroad Street, and Railroad Street, then once we obtain it, will actually fully connect and be improved all the way to Whitcomb Avenue.
This is fantastic. So realistically, do you think within the next year we can have Central Street connected to Railroad?
I think in the next year, we can probably have all the agreements and everything kind of put together and be working towards that goal. But I don't see us having the improvements done. We've got a $75,000 grant through PCTPA to actually do the design of the trail road access in there. We got to trigger all that. It takes a while to get the contracts ready and do all those improvements. So
what you're saying is it's time for me to bring Matt back out.
yes,
Got it.
that's perfect. So in this next year, a lot of the planning aspects of this is going to get accelerated so we can move forward.
Fantastic.
Madam Mayor, that's all I have for tonight.
Thanks again, Wes, for seeing that through. And I know it's been a lot of work over the last 3 years, a lot of phone calls, a lot of contact, a lot of getting back with people and following up. And
Yeah.
a lot of footwork.
Yeah. And Trinity did a great job. The last director of PCTPA made him come out here, look at the road and tell him we need money for this. And he kindly nodded his head, but now that we've got something that's more of a reality, I think that conversation will
It's
go.
time to light the fire.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, with that, we'll go ahead and move into our council business, starting with our City of Colfax audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
This is the 13th financial audit process that I've been through with the city. And tonight we'll have the annual presentation of those audited financial statements. The report begins on page 39 of your agenda package. The city is required by state law to be audited annually by external auditors who are certified public accountants and independent of city functions. And the city procures and contracts with CPA firms licensed by the state of California to perform the financial audits. In addition to the state law requirement, there are also benefits to the annual audit process. As fiduciaries, all of you staff, we're committed to providing complete and accurate financial information for the city. Some of the other benefits of the annual external financial audit are it provides assurance that the city financial statements are not misstated and that the reports are reliable. It highlights any weaknesses in the city practices and procedures which might affect the financial statements. And it ensures that all required information is disclosed. I would be remiss if I didn't give my annual shout out to Shanna Stahl, our administrative analyst. It's really her drive and determination that pushes us through this process every year. I was, excuse me, would also like to acknowledge the rest of city staff and the consultants who patiently work with us all year long. Sometimes we get a little persnickety to ensure that the city assets are safeguarded and that we strictly adhere to financial policies and procedures. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ingrid Scheiplein. Ingrid's a CPA and the managing partner of Richardson and Company LLC that has conducted the audit process. And Ingrid's going to give a brief presentation. And then after that, we'll ask you to accept the report.
Thank you.
Good evening. The outline is in your packet. I'm just going to touch on the highlights of that and then open it up to any questions that you may have. I'm pleased to report that we issued a clean opinion on the financial statements indicating that they're fairly presented, contained all the required disclosures. As far as the numbers part of it, without getting into the details, showing real positive financial condition. Your general governmental activities, which includes the general fund, special revenue, capital projects fund, had a net income of $600,000 approximately that was added to reserves during the year. That brings your designated reserves that you've established by your policy, which includes the operating reserve, capital reserve, and pension reserve, up to $945,000. And then there's also the unrestricted reserves that are now at $2.7 million. So financial condition of the city didn't look like that several years ago. So it continues to improve over time. As far as the sewer fund, it also showed positive results. It had a net income of $1.6 million. As far as uses of those proceeds, There was about 1.4 million of capital expenditures for the sewer improvement project and also generator replacements. And then also there were amounts added to reserves. The reserves set aside by the council were increased to 760,000. And then the unrestricted, undesignated reserves for the sewer fund are up to 2 million. So again, good financial position. As far as debt of the city, there's really no new debt. There was debt issued a while back for the sewer system upgrades. You're paying down on that debt. It's approximately 6.9 million. Your pension liability, last year was about 145,000. It flip-flopped the other direction to actually a slight, about a $4,000 overfunding. And the reason for that is really not anything that the city did, but more or less the assets in the CalPERS plan. The valuation was done as of June 30, 21. That's reflected in these financial statements. Apparently, as of that point in time, the market and that portfolio did very well. So there were a lot of investment gains. And so that helped offset your liability. So expecting that to likely flip the other direction to a liability, but still not a significant number compared to what we're seeing on some cities and other governments that have very large pension liabilities. You don't offer retiree healthcare benefits, so you don't have the other post-employment benefit liability that a lot of governments have on their balance sheets that result in reductions of their reserves. We also issued a report on internal control and compliance, and that was also a clean report indicating that we noted no weaknesses in internal controls and that the city complied with any requirements, laws and regulations related to the financial statements. We also issued a governance letter that contains certain items we're required to disclose to you. It mentions areas where we had adjustments or changes to the accounting records. Pleased to report that we just had 4 minor adjustments. So that indicates that the city is doing a great job of maintaining the accounting records according to required accounting principles. That letter also mentions that we had no difficulties in performing the audit. Lori and Shanna were very well prepared for us, uploaded documents for us to review in advance, and were very responsive to requests for information on site. So we do appreciate their assistance in making the audit a smooth process. We also included in your packet is a management letter. If we had any other recommendations that we didn't consider to be material weaknesses, we would mention those in that letter. There were no new comments, no comments mentioned in that letter. The comment that we had last year was adequately addressed, and so we have no new comments to add. So overall, good clean audit, and your financial condition is looking in good shape.
Fantastic.
So any questions?
Wonderful. I mean, it's very hard. That was very thorough. I had questions and they got answered along the way.
Okay, good. Tried to keep it high level without boring you to death.
Yes. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right. Well, seeing none.
Madam Mayor, may I make a statement? I'd like to thank my finance team, our finance team for their hard work on this. Lori and Shanna are tenacious to make sure that everything that goes through the financial piece of it is done correctly and holds all of us accountable. And I appreciate all of the hard work you guys do in this. And I know council does too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Shanna and Lori, very much.
Yes, thank you. All right, we'll entertain a motion here.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, is that motion to accept and receive that per staff recommendation?
See.
Okay. Second also. All right, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Seeing none, motion passes. All right, moving to our short-term rental presentation by Emmanuel.
Madam Mayor, this item starts on page 111 for those following along.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Emmanuel Ursu, Director of the Planning Department. Before you this evening is a request for direction as to whether or not we should proceed with preparation of a short-term rental ordinance. Short-term rentals are residential rentals for a period of less than 30 days. The municipal code is silent on short-term rentals. The code does regulate and have a provision for lodging in commercial districts, but is silent on short-term rentals. We are aware of at least a handful of existing short-term rentals that operate here in Colfax. We have not received complaints, at least not that I'm aware of, regarding those operations. There is interest, I believe, in providing an avenue for a permit process whereby short-term rentals can operate out of the shadows and in the daylight here in Colfax. In preparation of a short-term rental ordinance, there's several factors that I think we will want to consider. Number one is we'd want to get input from the existing operators. We'd want to get input from residents, and some considerations are potential impacts associated with noise, traffic, potential loss of housing if they proliferate, and there would be some TOT revenue that would be generated. I'm not sure how much that would be, but there would be some of that revenue. And then any other considerations that the council would like us to consider as we prepare such an ordinance. So with that, turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Perfect. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Does anybody have any questions? All right, Kim? No? All right, any public comment on this item? All right, I'll entertain a motion to okay.
I think we should probably look at having a short-term rental ordinance. I see those getting more popular, and we're having commercial space. It's going to start doing short-term rentals too. So
I agree. I think it's a hole in our current policies that should have already been filled. So
good catch.
All right. So is that a motion then?
Yeah.
Motion to provide, or I guess we don't really need a motion on this. So I agree with providing that direction as long as I've got 3 or more. Yeah.
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 All right. Well, let's do it.
Madam Mayor, if the planner would kind of discuss maybe timeline to bring something back to council so you have an idea of when to expect it.
Yeah, so I would like to solicit public input. So we'll start with that process. Depending on how much input we get, that could end up driving how long the process ultimately takes. I don't see it taking more than about a month and a half before we could come back with a draft ordinance. So probably in March would be my guess.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Okay, we'll move to item 9C, council committee assignments.
Madam Mayor, this is your item.
Okay. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the council committee assignments? There's very minimal changes. Does anybody have any feedback that
I
any
just had one
changes?
comment. I'd like to be on the skate park.
You know, I'll jump off that one and we can put you on that one.
Cool.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Any other changes? No?
Is Councilmember Douglas okay with this outlook?
Yeah. Is there anything you want me to adjust or?
We're open to adjust.
Yeah, if there's anything you don't want to do, I got the least amount of stuff. I think I'm at
Yeah.
like 6. So
No, I had a question on the,
I think we're rotated out at the moment. When do we rotate back in?
That's a conversation I think we can have, and I think we've been out long enough that we could probably strong arm them to put us back in there. I mean, we are
Okay.
benefiting from that organization currently. This is my opportunity to put though in a plug that we have the grant opportunity for sewer bills for those of the people that qualify and have an outstanding sewer bill. They can use this program, and it would be great to have city representation back on that board again.
Yeah. Okay, so if we get rotated back onto Project Go,
yeah, I would do it. I was on there
Okay.
for many years, so.
Sean, did you want to be the alternate for that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do that. And then I did have one other thing I was going to ask for TCTPA. Those are all in-person meetings. I was going to ask David, I think right now I have you as the alternate. And I was going to see if that was something Sean, you know, like, are you guys interested in maybe swapping that one, putting Sean as the alternate for that one?
Yeah, you do
Okay, because there's the very real possibility I might not be able to go to all those this year and very cool. Okay, so we'll put Sean as the alternate on PCTPA. If we can get back on Project Go, we're gonna put Kim and Sean. Kim's gonna replace me on skate park. I'm not Kim, Sean's gonna replace me on skate park. Any other changes?
Okay.
All right, perfect. So do we have any public comment on this? All right, bringing it back to the board for motion.
Move to approve.
Move to approve with amendments, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Move to approve with the amendments that we made. Do you want me to go over them?
No, you don't need to. I think Marguerite's got them. If that's okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. We're at good of the order. Sean, you got anything?
Tomorrow night is the Placer Sierra Fire Safe Council meeting, 6 p.m. right here in the City Hall chambers.
Kim?
The railroad club wanted me to make an announcement. I probably should have done it under nonprofits, but I'll just briefly say that they're looking for some volunteers. The caboose needs its usual maintenance. So if anybody's interested, call me or Roger Staub, because we just need some lightweight maintenance to keep it afloat.
Okay.
And I don't know if I mentioned this last meeting, but there's a lot of fires being set near the sewer plant, but that's all planned. It's CAL FIRE, and they're setting like 20 fires every day. And so if you see that, just be aware that
Seen the smoke.
they're on top of it. And also, if you drive down Yankee Gym Road, there's a nice little river because of all the rain we have. You know, it's kind of a nice drive to go down Yankee Gym.
Not a great time for swimming.
Yeah, just don't go down Ponderosa because the bridge is out.
Yeah,
Well,
They're replacing the bridge there.
going into the sea, and that's all. Thank you.
thank you. David?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Marnie? Okay, only thing I had for good of the order was I wanted to bring up the possibility of having a photographer come in and actually do portraits of the council, because I'm sure we can all concur that our website currently looks a little messy. So if everybody would be okay with that, I have somebody in mind, and I'd be willing to, do the work of going out and getting quotes. And I asked Wes as well, I'd like to have our customer facing staff also have their picture taken for the website. So, thoughts?
My thoughts are, it's a cool idea, as long as it just wasn't a significant cost, totally open to it. So I'm open to the idea of collecting bids.
Okay.
Yeah, what is the cost? That's what I want to know.
I would need to get bids, but I didn't want to jump the gun and do that without council feeling comfortable with the concept to begin with.
Well, I need a picture update, I'm sure. 'Cause they're completely different. But I'm good either way.
Okay.
As
got
long as the
feeling
cost
on
is reasonable.
Well, the cost should be low. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very low.
I'll be honest with you, if I can't find anybody within a reasonable range, I'm pretty good myself at taking pictures. So I'd also be willing to do nice photos of the council, and we could do that. So
Yeah, we'll buy you pizza and beer if you do.
but either way, I'd like to bring our website and make it everything look a little more professional and all that.
No, I like that idea.
Okay.
Professionalism.
Thank you. Wes, do you have anything for good of the order?
I do not.
Well, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.